fires one towards the goal. That's going to be gloved by Travis Ridgen. Well, this is more like it.
This is Slangin' the Biscuit. Here's Travis Ridgen and Dave Wheeler.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Slinging the Biscuit, the greatest hockey show in the history of this planet. My name is Travis Ridgen. I spent 4 years playing pro hockey between the pipes. My co-host, this guy has a nasty bison chili recipe. He whipped this thing out on every first date back in the day, folks. Now, don't worry. He had your mother home by 9. He has also had the top morning radio show in the city of Winnipeg for over 20 years. He slices and dices, and he is tied with Austin Matthews for the league lead in goals in the second round this season, folks. Welcome back to the show.
I actually posted once upon a time when I had social media, I posted a picture of me, Brett Hull, and Bobby Hull all in the suite at the Enterprise Center in St. Louis. And I said, between the three of us, we have over 800 goals in NHL history. And people started coming at me going, oh, how many do you have? And I said, none, but between the three of us. So I like the fact that you play. I also have probably as good of a mustache as Stuart Skinner, since we're making really outlandish comparisons.
Well, before we get to the NHL playoffs, why don't we address the headliner? Dave likes to deliver value in the first couple minutes, that extra nacho cheese, caramelized onion, and bacon bits on that dog, so let's give it to you. The headliner for this week, I thought we'd never talk about this team ever again. My first FPHL team, the Motor City Rockers, have folded. They are donezo.
Okay,
Wow.
but in the grand scheme of things, what does that mean for the FPHL, the Federal Prospects Hockey League? Does that mean that they're going to rebrand and be the Birmingham Rockers or the Royal Oak Rockers? Will they just pick another suburb in Detroit? Will be the 8 Mile Rockers? Like, how quickly before they return to the same rink, the same dressing room, all the same people except for the ownership? How long till that happens?
That's a very good question, because that is all on the table. I find it interesting. So they claimed dormancy status. So remember when I was playing the Delaware Thunder, they claimed dormancy. We're going to go into dormancy for 2 years. We're going to try to find a new rink and try to get things up and running again, which I think is just another way of saying we have too big of an ego to say we went bankrupt, belly up, and the team can't exist anymore. But instead, we're going to go find a new arena, and we'll be back in 2 years. But like your father leaving, Dave, he ain't coming back. He's not going out for milk.
I know where he is. It's my wife's father that we're still out on the look for.
Oh, sorry.
Look, we've talked about this on the show before when it comes to the finances as far as some of these lower rung professional teams. And it doesn't matter what sport it is, and obviously we'll use hockey in this example. But a lot of times, some of these wealthier business owners will buy a hockey team because it's a great write-off to dump a lot of money into. And if it goes bankrupt, so what? Who cares? It was friends and family only for most games anyways. Like, listen, I'm sure they would love to see it turn a profit, absolutely, without a doubt. But if it goes south, big deal. There's lots of ways you can move things around with your banker and your accountant, and move this here. We'll go into dormancy. That'll allow me time to move some money back over here. And it's a shell game. It always has been. It's unfortunate because a lot of players kind of get screwed in the process. But yeah, I think it's less about ego. I think it's just more about, hey, we need to spend money. What can we spend money on? Great, buy a hockey team. Good. How long? Who cares? 3 years. Try it. Go for it. I think, unfortunately, that's the situation more often than not.
Well, who knows? We could be totally wrong. I mean, look at the Danbury Trashers back in the day when they had the trash removing company, and then they had the actual Trashers hockey team, which I think was just AJ's dad's way of just trying to get a hockey team for his son to be a part of, and then all the money laundering that went on. And I mean, if you haven't watched the Danbury Trashers documentary, it's an absolute fantastic watch. Hour and a half, hour and change, and one of the best watches I've seen in a long time. But yeah, that stuff is so much more common in minor pro hockey than you would think. Actually, I would say just about every single team does that in minor pro hockey, without a doubt.
Yeah, it's a shell game, man.
Although, man, I would love to have played for the Trashers. That I think is probably one of those teams where I think what an adventure it must have been to be a part of that locker room when Jimmy Galante is coming in the room and says, we're going to throw some halibut fish up in the vents of the visiting locker room. We're going to spray paint their locker room for the finals when they come in here 2 days before the series starts, so you guys can inhale fresh paint fumes. Or we had to bolt all the doors and the windows shut so that fans can't get at you, because our fans are insane, but it's really just trapping the ventilation so we can turn the heat up and you guys get really hot and you sweat it out, and just all the shenanigans they did. That 04 to 06 run that they had before they got shut down for all the legal FBI issues, man, that would have been a fun thing to be a part of.
Look, they were just taking a page out of what teams still do. I don't think it's as rampant as it is as it used to be, but I remember hearing stories from some of the old boys about going, oh yeah, you go into Boston Gardens and there's no way you're getting warm water when you're showering after a game. It's cold water. They had to make sure that it evolved a little bit, and so warm water was a necessity, but they had to make sure that there was underarm deodorant, there was shaving cream, there was all the things that, guys would need in the locker room after, and they just put in like the worst. It was like, you're getting English leather as far as cologne, you're getting, basically yogurt to shave your face with. Like, they put in the bare minimum in there. It was not like they were rolling out the red carpet for the visiting teams, and there's nothing new about that.
And if you think they are not cheating to try to win a minor pro hockey game with the stuff that you had just mentioned, you are out of your mind living in a bubble. When we're talking about $10,000, $100,000 in the line, probably even more than that to win a minor pro game, to win a championship, to have that type of revenue coming in, everybody is trying to cheat in any way, shape, or form they can.
Oh, well, look, I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago when you were complaining about the Liberals winning the election, and it's like, oh, they cheated. It's like, then cheat better. If you know they're going to cheat better. The old adage, I don't know who said it, but I've heard it in numerous sports. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Are you trying to win or are you trying to play?
The Leafs the last decade or the Canadian people the last decade? Who will the history books study more? A team that blew over $40 million a year to barely get out of the first round and just squeak 2 wins out in the second round, or the Canadian people who can barely rub 2 brain cells together with voting in a 4th term of Liberal policy? What do you think the history books will remember more, Dave?
Oh, well, in the halls of politics, well, look, you can't compare the two, but when it comes to Canada, I know we get stereotyped for being bigger hockey fans than we are political fans, and that's probably true in a lot of circles of life, but when it does happen, when the Toronto Maple Leafs eventually shake off this curse, when it happens, maybe it'll be in my lifetime, maybe it won't, I will be the first one to stand up and go, no one deserves it more than you guys, but until then, I will continue calling you out for holding, for organizing the parade before you won.
You'll be in the old folks' home still blasting them on the show in a chair.
Well, somebody said to me before, they're like, hey, man, blah, 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 who are your team? I said, honestly, I don't know what I like more. And I'll equate it, so I leave the current teams out. I'll equate it to the Canadian Football League. I don't know what I like more, a Bomber win or a Rough Riders loss, because I get enjoyment out of both. And I know somebody's misery should not dictate my happiness, but when it comes to sports, it does. I chirped the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the shorts that have been going around on social media because it even popped up in my algorithm. There I am staring at myself going,
the Leafs.
Oh, man, maybe I was a little hard on those guys. But regardless, I was also a little hard on Steve Dangle, and I want to take that back because I absolutely loved watching him melt down after Game 5. My God, that was some of the funniest stuff. He was so animated, and I think he was really a microcosm of or a macrocosm of what every Leaf fan was feeling. I think he represented the feeling of what that 6-1 loss really felt like, IRL and in real time. He's already traded Marner. Marner's gone. Like I don't think Marner even exists to him anymore.
By the way, even the KHL doesn't even want Marner or Matthews. The Kunan Red Star, they came out the other day on Twitter, on X, and said, we don't want them. When they're available, we're good. We'll find someone else.
Man, oh man. Wow. I get it. Like I get it. I totally understand it, but this is the risk you run, not only as a Maple Leafs fan, but just as a sports fan. And I appreciate you putting your balls on the chopping block like that, but you can't be mad at everyone else when they get chopped off. Don't be mad at anybody but yourself.
I just can't believe that they spent so much money. They spent over half the payroll on 4 players. They almost went more over budget than the Canadian government, going $60 billion over the rails, saying, hey, listen, we spent $6 billion last year on reconciliation for my fellow Indigenous ancestors and folk. Oh, but we don't have clean drinking water. Yay, free health care. Like the Leafs, they got to change something. Honestly, you know what? One of the bright spots, one of the very few bright spots, well, 2 bright spots, obviously my boy Muzz getting a net, but Joseph Woll was fantastic in Game 4. I know the team completely hung him out to dry. Like a cheap dollar store whore in Game 5. They absolutely rinsed this guy. But Game 4, I loved his game. He was big. He was getting hit. He was sticky. Just rebounds were sticking to him. Not a whole lot coming off. Great glove hand on that Reinhart glove save right from the slot. Good blocker saves. He was having just the right amount of torque on those blocker saves, putting everything right into low danger opportunities. 35 of 37. I know they lost 2-0, but that game probably should have easily been 8-0, 8-1. He was fantastic in that game. I don't know if Toronto's going to be his future office. I feel like, and this kind of comes back to one of the reasons why I said I think you need to put Muzz in net, was as great as Woll has been. He was great last year against Boston, got injured, then Samsonov dropped the ball game 7 overtime. He was great against Florida, 2023 was it? But he just couldn't carry it all the way. And then this year he's been great as well, but I wonder to what degree, they have 3 great goaltenders. Stolarz is great, Muzz is great, obviously 2-time Cup champion, and then Joseph Woll is fantastic as well. But at what point do you sit down and say, okay, we have 3 great goaltenders. What can we do to spark the guys? Let's put the champ in. I wonder if we put a Stanley Cup champion goaltender, a 2-time Cup champion, a .924 and a .937 save percentage in both those Cup runs, does that spark the team? Because the goaltending is not the issue right now. And to be honest, the defense isn't a total issue. The issue is we can't score. We don't have that mojo, that confidence, that, like Dave was saying, that baseball kissing your jewelry on the way out of the dugout swagger they had in round 1 against the Senators. And to be fair, it doesn't help that you're playing against the best goalie in the world in Bobrovsky, but they needed to change something. I'm disappointed they didn't give Muzz the start for Game 6 because I think that would have been exactly what they needed. But hey, man, have fun golfing.
Look, the Toronto Maple Leafs have been looking to change something for my memory of the Toronto Maple Leafs since they made the conference finals and lost to LA back in 93, if my memory serves me correctly. But they've been playing that whole we got to change something, we got to change something, we got to change something, and they have. They've changed ownership, they've changed locker room attendants, they've changed hot dog vendors, they've changed players, they've changed jerseys, they've changed logos, they've changed sticks, they've changed technology, they've changed drinks, they changed everything.
They changed the arena name too.
Right, at this point, admit it, you're cursed. You are. I'm sorry. You're doing the same thing. You're going through the same thing the Cubs went through. You're going the same thing the Red Sox went through. So until that curse is lifted, and I hate to say this, but Maple Leaf fans, keep doing what you're doing. Keep throwing all that positive energy to try and break that curse as much as I hate it.
I thought you were going to say throw all the jerseys on the ice.
Oh, man. Oh. That is the ultimate. That is the ultimate, man. When you see fans doing that, and from what I heard, the cheapest ticket you could get in that barn for Game 5 was $400 for the cheap seats. 400 Canadian dollars, which I know is only probably about $20 on a hot dog American. I get it. But still, if you got people traveling all the way down from Thunder Bay and North Bay and Sudbury to come in and go, I'm going to see my Leafs. I'm going to see my Leafs win Game 5 and take a lead over the Florida Panthers, and you get literally booed out of your own barn.
Dude, can you imagine that? You spend $400 to sit in the upper deck. Your jersey costs more than that. You're trying to throw it from the 300 section on the ice to let Matthews knows that you think he stinks. If you want to get your jersey on the ice, you got to be dishing at least, what, $1,200, $1,500 to get within range to throw it on the ice? I don't think you can get it in from the 300 section.
Meanwhile, you can go down to Florida, you buy a ticket for $80 American, and they give you a voucher for
30. I've done it. $30 with a hot dog and parking too.
There you go. And they'll probably give you a signed jersey on the way out, and you can stay at Barkov's guest room.
I love the Florida Panthers.
Right? And look, hang on. The state of Florida has more Stanley Cups in the last 15 years.
Last 5 years. Last 5.
Than all of Canada. All of it.
I think they got more cups the last 5 years than Canada has in the last 50. Can we acknowledge the fact, just for a second to deviate, we'll come right back for a second. Even if, and I hope it happens, for Canada's sake, I would love to see Leafs, Hurricanes, Jets, Oilers. That's great. 75% chance of winning the cup. Can we acknowledge the fact that even if the Oilers, Jets, and Leafs did find a way to make it to the conference final, there ain't no way Gary's going to let that happen and someone going to win the cup. There is no way. Like we mentioned, we're going to spray paint the dressing rooms when the road team comes in 2 days before. We're going to turn the heat up. Oh, sorry, there's no cold water. Oh, what's that for your guys' post-game meal? Oh, sorry, we used expired meats. You guys are sick. You're not feeling so good. Have fun at Game 5 when it's a do or die. There is no way Gary is going to let them win. The NHL playoffs are rigged. The Draft was rigged when the Islanders went from 6-1, and the Canadian election 3 weeks ago was rigged. And if you do not think that election 2 weeks ago was rigged, you are living in a bubble.
I loved hearing the report out of the CBC going, well, the one riding, we found out that the candidate, that their mail-in ballot didn't quite work. And so we counted that, and they won by one vote. And Elections Canada apologizes for that one. Election Canada apologizes for the mistake, and they'll try and do better in the future, but they're not going to count anymore. That person won by one. Congratulations.
Well, they don't need to do better in the future. There won't be another election. That's the last election. It's the last real election happening in this country for 4 years.
Well, unless the only way I agree with you on that one is if there is reform. There needs to be voter reform in this country. It was something that was promised to us a decade ago. We never got it. Eventually, it will come. Here's hoping. Back to hockey. Let's stick on hockey.
For a split second, as much as I would love to see it come, I don't think it's happening, dude. Like I think the smart people, I mean, you could put you and I in the dumb category because we're still sticking here, but the real smart people, they've already left. They're not coming back. They're down in the U.S. or somewhere else. And to be honest, you and I probably got 10 brain cells to rub together, but half of the population only has one, and they're all sticking here. They're happy with it. They enjoy this. They'd prefer more of it. I don't see that happening. I hope it does. But.
Look, it's still a better place to live than a lot of others. How about that? There's still a reason why a lot of people want to come here.
You know what? So I was up in the Jasper Sky Tram today. I was taking some beautiful photo of the landscapes and the town site, and there's this East Indian family, and this gentleman had a really nice camera. Ended up having a good conversation with him, and so family of about 8 to 9. Husband, wife, kids, relatives, etc. Very nice people. And I was asking them, when did you guys move here? Oh, they came here about 5 to 10 years ago, whatnot. And I asked, what did you think? And the one guy says to me, before I could even finish my sentence, he says, dude, this place is a dump. We're leaving in 3 years. I said, what do you mean you're leaving in 3 years? My money goes so much further in India. I save 1% here. I could be in the 1% if I was in India. You people don't realize that Canada's becoming a third world dump and India is better than your country. And I said, I am amazed that you think that. Thank you. I'm going to report this back to the podcast. So to my friend in the Jasper Skytram today, thank you. Even they think that this country's becoming a dump.
I had a similar conversation when I was working at the dunes at Kamloops Golf Course during the pandemic, and one of our members, he was a Polish immigrant, first generation. Like, he came here by himself, met his wife, had kids here. He is part of the janitorial services at one of the high schools in Kamloops. Great golfer, and my Polish is a little shaky, but Nonovi, and I believe that means jumpy in Polish, and that was his nickname. And so after playing a few rounds with him after I was off work, we had a similar conversation, and he says, I'll paraphrase, but he basically said, when I came here, things were great, but he goes, but I'm looking to get out because I'm starting to see the same building. And then keep in mind, this was back in 21, 22. He said, I'm starting to see the same things happening here in Canada that I saw in Poland that led me to leave. So take that for what it's worth.
Isn't that crazy? Dude, when I was in Prince George, so the train goes Jasper to Prince George, stops overnight, get a hotel, and then go to Prince Rupert. And so I had to taxi from the Prince George train station to my hotel and then back. And both times, both ways, I asked the cab drivers, because they look like somewhere over there. And so I asked them, one guy's from India, the other guy's from Pakistan, the other guy's from Pakistan, and the other guy's from India. So 2 and 2. And I asked all 4 of them. I asked them, how long you guys been here? One guy was here for like 10, 15 years. One guy was here for 3 years. One guy came just last year because his wife was in school. Then I guess he was trying to fulfill that out with her. Then they're going to go back home. But all of them said, your country's a dump. I'm from India. I'm from Pakistan. Canada is a shithole. This is not what I thought I was signing up for. I got a better life over there. And I'm leaving, but you suckers are going to stay.
Yeah, but look, it's interesting what you're telling me is that you've spoken to 2 people who were in cahoots together, one from Pakistan, one from India, and they're not exactly getting along right now. So the fact that they're getting together from 2 neighboring countries who don't get along and both agree that Canada is not where they want to be, I find that very interesting.
Does that mean we're the idiots here, that if we're still sticking on the stinking ships and, let's try to see it out and hope that something changes on? I don't know, man. I know we're not a political podcast. Let's get back to hockey, but my goodness, it is scary, man, especially for like my future family that I want to have and my future kids is like, man, $20,000 get you a 3-year visa down in the U.S. and get you an opportunity to try to, especially as a creator, as an artist, is what they would classify me as in the visa category, and sole proprietor. 3 years would be a great little trial run down there. But 20 G's.
Well,
a little pricey.
Look, I live under the mantra of don't tell me how to enjoy things, and I'm at the point where if somebody came into your house and you welcome into your house and you cooked them a nice meal and you gave them a nice seat to sit on and you made them very comfortable and they sat around tearing down saying, your wallpaper sucks. Why isn't your fan working more? There's too much dust on this or too much dust on that. It wouldn't be very long before I said, you know what? It was nice having you here. There's the door. Enjoy.
Have you hung out with my dad before?
Why, does he have the same mantra?
Yeah, basically. I love my dad, but that's basically what hanging out with my dad can be like sometimes.
Well, I mean, like, truthfully, I mean, like, I'm comfortable in my house. I'm comfortable. I mean, listen, I work really hard for what I do and what I provide. It's a grind, and I understand it's a grind. But you know what? This is my home. From West Coast to East Coast to North Coast, this is my home, and it always will be, and you can't take that away from me.
Yeah, except for Toronto. Shithole of the universe. But you're reigning from the northeast corner of Alberta. Fort Mac, baby. Oil capital. Let's go. I'm from Las Vegas to the north, and the entertainment capital of the world. But do you want to get back? We got some Jet stuff. Do you want to go off to the Jet stuff, or do you got anything else to add for the Leafs?
Well, look, I'll transition us because I want to send a shout out to a bunch of my homies up in Fort McMurray who I'm still in a chat group with and have been for a very long time. And I'm going to call them out. And I think both of us can be hypocrites on this one, but I'll call them out because they started chirping me going, you got to start Comrie for Game 5. Like, you have to. Like, Hellebuck's just an absolute nuclear bomb in there. You don't know what you're going to get. And I said, no. Look, live by the sword, die by the sword. And you know, Travis Ridgen, you know, me here, Dave Wheeler, said during the regular season, I think they're riding Hellebuck too hard. They should not be playing in this many games. Comrie should be getting more games. The fact that he played in the All-Star game, the Four Nations Challenger, whatever the shit they called it. I said he's playing too many games. I said if you're going to ride your goaltender that much, you got to expect him to be a little shaky in the playoffs. And so I said, look, they lived by that. They played him all the way through. They rode that horse. They rode that horse all the way into the dirt. So you got to keep him in there. Live by the sword, die by the sword. And they were like, no, Comrie's good. Comrie's good. I'm like, listen, I'm not saying Comrie's bad, but he had a losing record. He was sub 500 in the regular season. Okay, and then I turned around and I said to the same group, I said, so based on what you said about Comrie, you got to be starting Matt Murray for Game 6, right? You got to start Matt Murray for the Toronto Maple Leafs. No, that's different. Woll's had way more game than Stolar's. He's injured. You got to go with Woll's. And he's one bad game. And so maybe that's a hypocrite on me for not saying I would agree to start Comrie, and nothing against Comrie. I just think I'm sticking with Hellebuck. But if you're going to ride with that, then why isn't it good on the other end with Toronto saying, put Murray in net? He's a two-time Stanley Cup winner. Go with the pedigree. So that's kind of the arguments that I'm having in my chat groups, and I don't think they're too dissimilar from other ones.
But would you have guessed a Hart Trophy nominee and a runaway for the Vezina was going to throw up not only an .850 save percentage, not just in one game, not just in one series, in the entire playoffs through 11 games, through 11 games, an .850 save percentage. He's got a .790 save percentage on the road. Who would have thought of that?
To be fair, you put those stats away, and if I just gave you the stats that's saying he's got 6 wins and 2 shutouts, you'd go, oh shit, he's dominating right now, isn't he? If 6 wins and 2 shutouts, that's a dominant goaltender. But then you got to balance it out. If you only focus on the save percentage and the goals against, yeah, that makes him look bad. But these ones make him look good. So where is he? He's about midway. Is he not?
Yeah, but I mean, and I said it during my playing days too. Like, you have the stats for a reason to kind of give you an outline, but the stats don't tell you the full story. But to be fair, though, when you look at his game 5 performance,
but look, we're playing Moneyball. We're Brad Pitt. We're Brad Pitt and Jonah Hill in Moneyball. And that's what hockey's getting down to. It's getting down to the stats. I mean, look, the Jets in that 4-0 win in Game 5 beat the Dallas Stars statistically in every category. Every category down the board when it came to face-offs, takeaways, giveaways, hits, shots, everything. So statistically, they were better and it showed on the scoreboard. It doesn't always happen that way, but more often than not, now we have to play the Moneyball game where you got to look at the stats. And statistically, they were better in that game.
Well, Stuart Skinner just had back-to-back shutouts, man, so I don't know what to say anymore.
Well, let's retcon that real quick. He was terrible in his first 3.
I don't know if it's the system breaking down in front of him. Is that part of the problem? Maybe. Is it all the footage and everybody can see it? Is it playoff time? We got 7 games, so we're going to really hone in on your weaknesses as opposed to during the regular season. It's Colorado, Dallas, Buffalo, New York, St. Louis. I don't know, but when he's great, he's great. When he's terrible, he's horrible, man. And he's a terrible puck handling goaltender. Granted, that goal in Game 4 should not have counted, the kicking motion, but we'll see, man. Winners, pressure makes diamonds, and winners win. But Pete DeBoer, Dallas Stars goalie coach, geez. Pete DeBoer, Dallas Stars coach, is 9-0 in Game 7, so if the Jets can push it to Game 7, you're going up against a coach who's 9-0. Even Mr. Game 7, Justin Williams, wasn't 9-0. He was 8-1.
The fact that the second guy in line is 8-1 in Game 7s, he's due for a loss. Statistically, it lines up for us to get a Game 7.
Undefeated. 9-0, by the way.
Yeah, and you know what? Tom Brady also has the most Super Bowl appearances, the most Super Bowl rings, but he also has the most Super Bowl losses, right? So statistically...
Whoa. He's got the most Super Bowl wins, and all the losses came against Eli Manning. Let's put that out there. Can we be honest about it? If your name is not Eli Manning, nobody has ever beaten Tom Brady in a Super Bowl. Actually, Nick Foles, now that I think about that.
There you go. Statistically, the planets are lining up for a Game 7, and if you bring the Jets home to Game 7, statistically, I've already got them in the conference finals against the Edmonton Oilers.
You know, you remind me of this one chick I dated for about a year and a half. She'd
Oh my God, really? Is it the mustache?
No. No, you remind me of this one chick that I dated for about a year and a half and change. She put on about 10, 15 pounds, and she's like, I put on all this weight. It's like, well, why do you think that is? Is it that you're not moving enough? Is it that you're eating too much? You know, calories in, calories out? Oh, no, it's just, I don't know. We have a full moon lately, and just like the stars aren't aligned. The moon is not putting the Big Mac combo in your face. I'm sorry to tell it to you, but that Crunchwrap Supreme and nacho fries with the full sugar Pepsi might have done it.
No comment.
You're starting to sound like that. The Jets, the planets are aligning. I had the nacho cheese fries. You know, my grandma, when she watches the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, she'll turn the TV off and they're losing, go for a walk, come back and hope that they're winning.
Yep. You do whatever it takes. The rally caps go on whatever it takes. And if it works, then it was all on you.
And then you got Mark Schiefle, who was selling that punch from Jamie Benn hard in the mainstream media. Were selling Trump derangement syndrome and fear-mongering to the elderly during the last 3 weeks.
What the frick, guys? What the frick? Did you see him? He punched me with his left hand. What the frick?
Did you see the video on the live broadcast if you could read Scheifele's lips? He's like, "What the frick, man? What the frick?" No.
For those that don't know, Mark Schiefle is a devout Christian. God love him. It takes one to know one, but he does not swear on the ice, and guys have taken advantage of that. I remember one time, I think they were playing the Predators. I can't remember who it was, but was chirping at him, going, "Hey, fudge you, 55, fudge you." Because he doesn't swear, and that's his choice. And I mean, good for him. I use language like that, I feel, only when it's literarily warranted. But good for him. And that was a Jamie Benn left-hander. That wasn't even a strong hand. That was a left-handed punch. And Schiefle went down like he got hit by one of Carney's snipers up in the rafters of the arena. Like that was, he went down hard. And to his credit, he got up and he fought as hard as he could against that skinny referee, but he couldn't quite get to Ben, and thank goodness he didn't.
That's it. Plan the parade. Port of Jermaine, baby. Let's go.
Your words, not mine. But yes.
You want that little Oilers?
Which part?
Why don't we start with Cheeks clapping and Kasperi Kapanen, whatever the hell his name is, with the overtime winner. I didn't even know that guy was still alive, and then there he is, banging home loose change to the side of the crease. Let's go home, fellas. Let's get Evander Kane out of the Plaza Hotel so he's not gambling no more.
Oh, man. I don't know which point I want to touch on first, but on the goal.
By the way, I do have some insight about the whole casino thing with Evander Kane that you mentioned to last week. Go ahead. I'll touch on that in a second.
Okay, let's do that then. Go.
Go.
I'm in. Tell me. Oh. Yeah.
Okay, so you were asking last week, do the Oilers have security set up outside of EK91's hotel room so that he's not going to the casino, especially when they're playing a series in Vegas where they're there for 2 to 3 days? I got some inside information. There's a spot about 45 minutes outside of Edmonton at the River Cree Casino and Resort. He has his own private security. He has his own private table. He has his own private hotel room and his own private machines. He goes there. He goes in. He goes out. Throws in a couple of hands. Throws in a good day's work. See you later, alligator. Didn't hear that from me.
I've been to that casino before. It's a good casino.
Beautiful casino. Amazing facility they have there.
Mm-hmm.
Also, shout out to the Alberta Extreme Hockey AAA team. They play out of there.
Oh, okay. Out of the casino?
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm asking you, like, they build a rink? Because that's not crazy.
Yeah,
I've heard of that happening before.
There's a casino, there's a restaurant in the casino, and then the restaurant has an observation deck for the rink. Can you imagine a team of 15, 16-year-olds? Yeah, where do you play? Out of the Chino. They're at the slots before morning skate.
Dude, that's not crazy. Even here in Manitoba, every time you go into a casino, they put banners everywhere going, supporting our local communities. I'm still waiting for them to build a rink.
By not checking IDs and trying to help you gain generational wealth. One slot at a time.
Look, I think that Alberta, and Alberta's the front runners on this one, Quebec maybe too, but when it comes to First Nations peoples, they are starting to really figure it out. And I know Manitoba's tried a few times, but when it comes to the Chiefs, but they're trying, and I know they've been getting a lot of counsel from their counterparts down in the U.S., but you look down in the U.S., the big casinos are all on reserve land. And they're like, listen, white person, come on in, gamble all your money down here. Good for you. And they're putting the money in as far as investing into the land and into their casinos and whatnot. Good for them. Good. Take it. That's the way to do it. Absolutely.
Have you noticed how some of the best hockey players, especially in Alberta and Manitoba, are native kids that come off the reserve? They come off those spots specifically. Like, they're fantastic. And, you know, listen, I'll say it as somebody who does have that in my ethnicity, or, you know, to be honest, the majority of my ancestral bloodline is natives, but I get it, the natives get a little bit of a bad reputation, but so many of them are just great, stand-up, hardworking people and nasty at hockey. I mean, you show me a native kid who plays hockey, I'll show you somebody who's nasty at hockey. Great hands, great skating. They're always phenomenal when it comes to hockey. Not a lot of goaltenders, to be honest. I haven't seen a whole lot of First Nations goaltenders, but a lot of really nasty D-men out there.
Still one of the best. Look, Ted Nolan won the Coach of the Year award, and then was out of a job the next year in Buffalo. Dude, it's their game. Like, truthfully, they are unbelievable. I played with guys off the res in Northern Alberta with more talent in their right finger than a lot of the guys that I've seen go on to play competitive hockey at the professional level. But the problem is, and you know it better than I do, that a lot of times when they hit 18, things change. And I'm not going to get into the minutia of what that is, but yeah, dude, all the guys that came off the res that came into the city to play were dominant hockey players.
You know, listen, I love my First Nations ancestors and whatnot, but the fact that the Canadian government spent $6 billion on reconciliation, which, what does that mean? They still don't have any clean drinking water. You should probably start with clean drinking water. It is insane. I mean, we can get down to the Canadian politics rabbit hole, but let's chat. Let's go back to the Oilers for a second. Our Mark Carney endorsed team. God, the politics just keeps coming up. We can't escape it these days, can we, Dave?
Well, look, I mean, we started off the show talking about the politics of finances when it comes to the lower rungs of the of hockey and up to the upper echelon of hockey. So, I mean, it's going to work its way in. It's just a matter of being respectful about it and understanding the finances of it, because that's really what it comes down to. I think we're sprinkling it in quite. We're very aware of it, and I think it's within context, and I think that's good. But by the way, do you want to? Speaking of the Oilers, I know you had a bit of theory when it came to Carter Hart signing with the Oilers. Did you want to touch on that real quick?
I think we save the Hockey Canada stuff for the end of the show. I think we should save that for them.
Well, we're getting close, sir. We're getting close.
I know. Let's rip this real fast. Why don't we blow the doors open on the politics aspect? Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, they are more out of control than Canada's unchecked foreign immigration problem. You know what? I don't even need to say it anymore. I've said it so many times, all 5 million of them. But whoever's dealing with them in round 3, whether it's Ottinger, whether it's Hellebuck, you guys got your hands full. I mean, you guys got your hands more full than Lily Phillips in a 3-way. But
when the Winnipeg Jets get into the conference finals, I am so excited about that series. I really, really am. I think we outduel them in goaltending. I think where we have them is that we're able to, when I say us, Winnipeg, we roll 4 lines. They don't. I think if you can stay on those aforementioned two gentlemen that you just did, if you can stay on them, which I think we have the ability to do that, I think it's no, I'm not even going to make a prediction until we get there. We can do that next week. We'll make a prediction next week. I'm not going to do it yet. We got to get into this round. I'm not going to be a Maple Leafs fans and look too far ahead.
Why don't we start with this? I think I speak for all Albertans when I say I have more confidence in Mark Carney and our socialist liberal government that we just elected than Stuart Skinner in net for my Edmonton Oilers. I mean, this dude throws up an 815 save percentage in the first 3 games, 2 games against LA, buries them in game 3 against Vegas with that dog shit goal with half a second left. Like, just stay on the net, dude, hug the post. And then from the top ropes, back-to-back shutouts. What? Who is this guy?
Well, once again, I mean, does it come down to wins and shutouts? I mean, which stats are you looking at? Which stats? Because if you look at those, he's the best goaltender in the playoffs right now. But if you look at his first 3 games, not so much.
Well, okay, I have a stat for you, Dave. And Stuart Skinner right now, despite the back-to-back shutouts, he's still rocking an 850 save percentage in the playoffs. And in the last 10 years, the save percentage, and I get it, save percentage only tells part of the story, but of the last 10 winning Cup goaltenders, the goaltender that hoisted the mug for the team, 924, 923, 937, 922, 914, 927, 937, 902, 932, 906. The outliers are Bob last year, who got shit pumped in games 5 and 6 in the Cup final. It really took a hit to his stats. Darcy Kemper, who was not great for the Avalanche. They got by on a great, fantastic team. And Jordan Binnington, who, if we remember in 2018, I believe it was, might have been 2019, he got piss pumped in game 5 and 6 as well against the Bruins. So with that exception, pretty much you need a 920 save percentage roughly to guarantee yourself the Cup for winning goaltenders. And last time I checked, Dave, I know a majority of the Canadian population barely has 3 brain cells to rub together, but 850 is not 920. So, and he proved it last year. He buried them the first 3 games. He played great games 4, 5, and 6, and then led in a dog shit goal to win the Cup clincher from Ryan Hart against the Panthers. So, like I said, I think Alberta's got more confidence in Carney than Skinner.
And look, and you just pulled up all those stats that nobody knows about because the only thing people remember was who won the Stanley Cup last year? The Florida Panthers. You would have to, oh yeah, right, in 7. Oh yeah, right, they were up and the Oilers came back. Oh, yeah, but no, they don't remember that. They remember who won the Cup. The Panthers, period.
Yeah, but to go back to your baseball analogy, Billy Bean, we don't need to trade for Giambi. We need somebody who produces what Giambi does. The stats give you a little bit of an outline of when you win the Cup, the past 10 years, the past decade, your goaltender on average is probably going to run roughly a 918 to a 925 save percentage. There are outliers, I get it, but that's the stat.
Well, we thought the same thing between the Oilers and Golden Knights before they went into that series, and that ended up being a bigger goaltending duel than we both thought.
Yeah, who would have thought? We predicted first one to make a save wins, and then Skinner and Hill battle it out in a 1-0 overtime series clinching game. Nobody would have guessed that. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Look, we're talking a lot about the Western Conference, and I get it. We're talking a lot about the Leafs. Can we talk for a second about the Carolina Hurricanes, who are rolling 4 lines, who are looking really good, who buried the top team in the Eastern Conference in 5 games, who are looking solid between their goaltending, their defense, their offense. They are rolling 4 lines confidently. Nobody's coming out of there being extra sore. Everyone's sore on the same level. I think they are going to really challenge Florida in the Eastern Conference Final. I think I have Carolina going to the Stanley Cup Final.
Rematch of 2023, Panthers and Hurricanes is what you're calling?
A Carolina-Edmonton Final.
No, Eastern Conference Final. Eastern Conference was 2023.
Eastern Conference Final? Yeah.
I wouldn't mind a little 2006 Oilers and Canes again. Although I would love, I know you're going to hate this. I would love for a Leafs-Jets final or a Oilers-Leafs or a Jets, just some type of Canadian final. I don't want American games.
Bettman won't let it happen. Bettman will not allow it to happen. He's got a noose and a chair ready to kick out from underneath him if that happens.
NHL playoffs are rigged. The draft was rigged. The Canadian election are rigged. If you don't think all 3 of these are rigged, you are living in a bubble.
Here I am in Brunswick in my bubble. Call me Glinda the Witch.
One more thing about your boy E. Kane. He mentioned the other day, they asked him what was the difference between games 3 and 4, and he said, well, Games 3, I drove a Ferrari to the rink, and then I switched up today. I drove the Rolls Royce. That was the difference. It wasn't the fact that our goaltender showed up. And I thought to myself, while Evander Kane, while EK91 is whipping around in a Ferrari or a Rolls Royce in the streets of Edmonton down Jasper Avenue, there's Anna Kane somewhere driving a beat-down shitbox Toyota Corolla, making 30 Instagram stories a day, still sandbagging the guy. I don't know how many years after their divorce.
Look, I don't think she's doing that bad. She's probably driving a secondhand BMW X5.
You think she got a good settlement? You think she got paid off quite nicely to beat it?
I don't think she is standing in the soup line. How about that?
Does anybody know what she's actually doing for money? I'd be very curious.
I think the better Evander does, the better she does. How about that?
I do have some bad news, though. Well, or good news, depending on how you look at it. So last week, the voicemail portion of the show where you're allowed to call in, you can say whatever you want, positive or negative. We air all calls unless every other word is an F-bomb or a swear, then we don't air that. If there's a couple swears, we'll censor it, but try to keep it professional. We canceled that last week due to some logistical issues with myself traveling. This week, unfortunately, will be the exact same. Now, it's kind of funny because the same week that we canceled the voicemail, we got just shy of 50 call-ins. So to everybody that called in, thank you. I speak on behalf of Dave and myself. We really appreciate you calling in. It's just not logistically possible for this week, but next week, we will get the voicemails back. And I think, how do you feel about doing a voicemail exclusive episode again coming up, Dave, where we'll just blast out all the voicemails in one episode?
It'd be like the old Lovin' or Leavin', the old country radio call-in show.
Speaking of easy, do you want to talk about the Hockey Canada scandal?
Do we have to?
I think we should do a little bit of an update, though, because I don't see anybody talking about this. Has anybody been watching the Hockey Canada scandal? Now, I wish that they would post video from the actual trial. I would love to actually see what's going on because you can only gain so much from the transcripts of what's going on. But this lady, whoever she is, because she won't reveal her identity, is getting absolutely cooked. At first, she's blaming Carter Hart for something, and then now all of a sudden Carter Hart is Sam Steele, and now she's mixing them up, and this girl is cooked. This is fake. It's just going to be like the Trevor Bauer situation. It's unfortunate that these guys, the process is the punishment. And even when they're exonerated and they're found innocent, and all the people that have just absolutely buried them and dragged their name through the mud in the media the last 2 years they should be eating their words and having some humble pie, but they won't. But, we've been here since day one saying, this seems a little bit fishy. Something happened. She had a boyfriend. She made some bad decisions. She got a nice little settlement. She spent all the money. She came back and, nothing seems to make sense in the story, but I did have a very interesting story about Carter Hart. Again, I heard from...
Okay, hang on. Let me tell you this real quick before you get into the Carter Hart stuff. I can speak on this from a very personal point of view, and based on what we're seeing right now, it looks like all of these gentlemen will be cleared of all charges. Okay? Regardless of that, there is a kryptonite necklace that they are going to have to wear for the rest of their life. Not in all circles, but in certain circles, when they introduce themselves to new people, they'll put out their hand, they'll shake, and they'll go, "Hi, I'm blank." And they'll go, "Oh, I remember you. Weren't you part of that whole situation?" And they'll say yes. And they'll have to explain themselves, and some people will say, "I don't care what the court said. I still think you're guilty." There are some people that will write them off and never speak to them ever again in their inner circles. And we used to, as a society, live by the rule of everyone gets due process, everyone gets their day in court. But unfortunately, they will have to suffer the consequences of these decisions, regardless if they were right or wrong, for the rest of their lives. And I feel for you. I get it. And it will
You had the exact same thing happen to you a couple years ago, right?
Well, not the exact same thing. I mean, the circumstances were very different, but I had a very public situation with my career. And despite the fact that I have cleared my name, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I will have to wear that kryptonite around my neck for the rest of my life. And there are people that will look at me differently regardless of what the outcome was of all of that. And these guys will have to deal with the same thing. And it will affect their career. They will not be able to be that goaltender that they should have been or that player that they should have been. That will never happen again. And there will always be that ball and chain on their ankle or that kryptonite necklace, however you want to spin that analogy or that metaphor. for the rest of their lives. And I feel for everyone. I feel for her. I feel for them. I feel I have all the feels, and it's a very unfortunate situation. I'll put it to you this way. When my wife and I get into an argument, I'm not mad at her. She's not mad at me. We're mad at the situation because we're both dealing with that situation. Does that make sense?
Can I provide a little bit of humor to the situation just to lighten the mood a bit?
Wow, you're going to be please.
You know, it's funny you mention that. I love when people comment on our Instagram page. By the way, we're just about to hit 20,000 Instagram followers for those wondering. But I absolutely love when people comment on our Instagram page. That's that Dave Wheeler, that misogynist prick. And I respond, have you heard what the other guy on the show says? And they just lose it like, I have two brain cells to rub together. I voted NDP. Oh, God, I love Canada.
Hey, like I always say, don't tell me how to enjoy things. I can't affect how someone else feels. All I can control is how I feel and how I interact, and that's how I move on with every day.
Can we finish the show with this Carter Hart story? I know we've had a great show. It's been lengthy. It's been fantastic. But I got a really good Carter Hart story. You ready for this one, Dave?
Bring it.
So, my same internal Edmonton Oilers sources that told me about Evander Kane's River Cree casino gambling spot and perks told me insider information. The Edmonton Oilers did have a conversation with Carter Hart a couple months ago about, listen, once all this clears, we're done with Skinner. We're going to bring you in. I know a lot of people don't want to take a gamble on you, but we will. You're a great goaltender. We know the charges are BS. They're going to be dropped and we'll bring you in. Fantastic conversation. Everything goes well. From what I was told, the higher-ups kibosh that immediately. We are not going to have that in the team. Now, who are the higher-ups? Are they with the Oilers? Are they with the league? My source would not tell me. But I thought that was interesting.
Well, I find it interesting because they signed Evander Kane, who's had some issues. They signed Corey Perry, who's had some issues. So why the line in the sand on that one?
Maybe because it's just so public and that he's going to be the face of your franchise in goal.
Dude, Evander Kane was public. Corey Perry was public. It's a different kind of public. It's a different kind of headline.
You kind of hide that with the offense, though. Like, you got the Stuart Skinner problem where everybody is talking about this guy and how terrible he's been, and now you're going to replace him with Carter Hart.
But he doesn't have an issue. He has no black spots on his resume aside from his play.
I know, but all the Skinner attention is going to go to the Carter Hart situation, and maybe they don't want it. I don't know. My source didn't tell me if this was the league kiboshing it, if it was the actual internal Oilers management. I would assume if they're having talks with the Oilers and the Carter Hart camp that they're talking to people within the Oilers management. So I don't know. My source didn't feel comfortable specifying on that.
Great time to wrap it up. Why don't you take us home?
Ladies and gentlemen, we do no shows every single Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 in the Prairies, 9 in the Foothills, in beautiful Jasper, Alberta, and 8 in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Travis Ridge, and that's Dave Wheeler. If you want the show in clips format, we have a YouTube clips channel. There's the Shorts, Instagram, and the TikTok for all your short 10 to 15, 20-second hits of this show and the full episode on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify every single Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. Hit the subscribe button to enjoy more episodes just like this. Our voicemail will return. There's a link in the bio, link in the video description to call us at any point in time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.